Hey Blue Team, welcome to your very first yoga class. My name's Sarah and this is Blue Side Yoga. We're going to start our Yoga 101 series today with doing a sequence of poses that will get you through a very basic yoga flow. So if you're ready, grab your mat. You'll need some yoga blocks. I suggest 2 of them, probably a pillow, maybe a blanket, and a stool or a chair for some extra support, because I'll be talking about modifications to make sure that you can do yoga at no matter what stage you are in your mobility journey. Are you ready? Let's get set. Let's do it. Okay, the first pose that we're going to learn is mountain pose. In order to do mountain pose, your feet are about hip width apart and everything is in alignment here. So your ankles are aligned with your knees, which are in line with your hips. That's the bottom half. The top, we're working on posture. So everything is straight. So you're working on your back straight, your shoulders down, and you'll hear me mention a lot of times saying shoulders down your back. And what I mean when I say that is to be conscious that you're not shrugging your shoulders or pushing your shoulders forward. So when I say shoulders down the back, what I mean is see this kind of rotation that I'm doing to align your posture, get your spine in a straight position, and the shoulder blades feel like they're going down your back. So that's why I say shoulders down the back. So shoulders down the back. Hands are just along the side. This is mountain pose. This is your first yoga pose. The one I love about mountain pose is it is the basis for everything that we do in yoga. So whenever you are doing another pose, think about mountain pose because that's your alignment. Things stack up upon each other in a very orderly process in yoga. So mountain pose, feet, ankles, knees, hips are aligned, back is straight, shoulders are down your back, and facing forward. That's your first pose. All right, let's teach you the second one. So this is going to be a modification of your mountain pose, and I'm going to show from the side. So we have mountain pose. Hands are going to come to heart center. There's a lot of transitional movements in yoga, and usually they come through the heart center. So hands come to heart center, and then you're going to lift straight up overhead. Now, a couple of key things to keep in mind here. When you're doing this, so I cross my thumbs because it just helps me a little bit more and helps with my shoulder mobility. But when you're doing this, you want to make sure that the ear and the bicep are in line, and this will help start to move and adjust our posture and help with straightening that T-spine, which is what we really need to help work with our posture here. So hands together, arms are up, shoulders are still down your back. I'm not shrugging, I'm bringing them back as much as possible. And then from here, just a slight, very slight back bend. I like to imagine this as a string coming up from my chest to the ceiling, and you're pulling up through the chest like a heart opener. Things to watch out for in this pose is to make sure that you're not sinking in the lower back. And when I say sinking, I mean you're just kind of collapsing your hips forward. Core is engaged, your back muscles are engaged, hands are up, very slight back bend, and look up. Nice job. Okay, we're going to keep going with our flow. So we started in mountain pose. We brought our hands to heart center. Slight back bend. From here is a ragdoll pose. So you're going to hinge at the hips and fold all the way forward. So eyes up here for a second. I want you to notice a couple of things about this pose. So we haven't really changed anything from our mountain pose with our bottom half besides the fact that we're folding forward. So knees, hips, let me get my anatomy right. Ankles, knees, hips are all in line. And we hinge at the hips. So it's not a rounding of the lower back, it's a hinge forward. And you'll bend your knees as much as possible until your chest can reach the knees. And you'll let the head hang. So a couple of modifications here, because I know this may not be accessible for absolutely everybody. So to get your hips or to get your chest to your thighs, bend your knees as much as possible. This may be your pose. If that's not possible for you, here's where that pillow comes in. You can put your pillow right here and create, bringing more of your either thighs to your chest or chest to thighs, whatever works for you in that pose. But you just want to make sure that the lower back is protected and you're not rounding a lot. It's hinging from the hips. So those are some ideas for that. Now, as we continue with ragdoll pose, chest to thighs, you can either let the head hang and let your arms hang. You can grab opposite elbows because we can't grab the same elbow, right? So opposite elbows and hang so that you can make it more of a passive pose. Or you can bring the hands behind just below the calves and press a little bit to make it more of an active pose, but you're still relaxing the head and the upper body. So go ahead and try a couple of those, see what feels best for you, and if you need to modify it at all. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our next pose. So the next pose is going to be a runner's lunge. So you can just watch me for a second here. From our forward fold, palms go to the ground. Your right leg is going to go back. So right leg back, knee comes down. You can adjust this foot to wherever you need. And then chest up, look up. So a couple of key things here in this pose. So you've got your ankle and knee alignment. Your upper body is looking up. You've got the string in your chest that we talked about before is reaching toward the ceiling. And the shoulders are down the back, so you're not leaning forward in this pose. You are lifting up and looking up for creating space in the body. Your back toes are curled. If it feels more comfortable for you, you can let that foot go flat. But I prefer it curled because it gives me a little bit of extra stretch through the foot. So we're working on a whole body stretch in this pose. Now let's talk about a few modifications that you might need. If you can't keep this alignment without some props, here's some ideas. So you've got your yoga blocks. You can bring the floor up higher to you. And the cool thing about your yoga blocks is they have different heights. So wherever you are at to get that chest up, look up, and nice, really, really good stretch for opening the front body. A couple other ideas for you if this is still a struggle. You may have some back knee pain if placing your knee on the ground is sore for you. So a couple of ideas is you can fold your yoga mat over and use that as a cushion. The other thing is we have a pillow next to us, so you can drop that pillow and use that. Or if that's a bit too much, if you have a blanket with you, use that blanket for the same thing. And then if you're still having a little bit of trouble with this and maybe balance isn't your thing and it's something that you need to work on, you can bring that chair or stool over. Fix this here. And you can lean your weight onto that just to give you some more stability as you're getting into this pose. So go ahead and try it. See what works best for you. I'm going to clean this up here. So here we are in our lunge for chest, and we have our chest up, looking up. Now we're going to transition into plank. Palms are going to go flat on the ground. You're going to take your left foot, bring it back, and we're going to form a nice plank. So again, eyes here real quick. I want to talk about some things for plank. So I know we're used to this during push-ups, and we've probably held the front leaning rest a lot during our military careers. But a couple of things that I want to focus on for this, so that we can continue doing yoga and protect our wrists and our bodies and all this stuff. When you are pressing into the ground in plank pose or downward dog or anything that we'll use in the future that is pressing into the ground, the weight of your hand, the weight that you're putting into your hand, should be the L between your thumb and your first finger. So you're pressing into the ground there. That will help protect your wrists. If you have wrist troubles, you can absolutely do this as a fist. So hands flat or fist. I've even grabbed the side of the yoga mat before just as something to hold on to, and sometimes during poses, that has helped me, especially if I'm pushing or anything like that. So just some things to think about for the wrist as we're getting into plank pose. So for plank, your entire core is engaged, and just like our mountain pose, your shoulders are down your back. So generally, before, when we used to do front leaning rest, I've seen it and I used to do it, we would push and round our backs like this. And that is not helping us, because watch, if I maintain this position and I come up, look how rounded my back is and look how bad my posture is. There's a difference between this and pushing the shoulders down the back to create the strength that we need to improve our posture. So please think about that every time you do a plank pose. If you can't sustain this pose, you can drop to your knees and start to work on your own shoulder mobility and the back strength that you need to pull the shoulders down and back instead of forward and round. So I hope those tips help and make sense. Those were kind of life-changing for me once I realized that I spent most of my military career rounding my back. So we go to plank pose. So here we are in our nice solid plank, and that's all it is. Make sure you keep your core engaged, shoulders down the back as flat as possible, and you got this. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is knees, chest, chin. So it's exactly as I just said. So you're going to drop the knees to the ground, keep the toes, keep the bottom half exactly where it is, keep your hips in the air, and now just drop your chest and your chin to the ground. So you do that by bending the elbows close to the body and bringing the chest and chin close to the ground, or on the ground, I should say. And you're looking forward. This is a great stretch for your T-spine because you're technically in a little back bend here. From here, we're going to go to cobra pose. So all we do is drop the hips, point the toes, your feet and your legs are together because we're making this, think about having like a cobra tail. Hands are underneath the shoulders and engage the upper back to peel your chest off the ground. This isn't an arm push-up. It is a back engagement pose. So your entire back is engaged, but you're really using the top half of your back to peel the chest off the ground. Again, think about where your shoulder alignment is. So shoulders are rolled back and down the back. And this is your cobra pose. So you're here, so you can actually take your hands and just do, like lift them up off the ground a little bit to make sure that you're engaging your back and you're not doing a push-up. And this cobra can be as small as it needs to be. If you're just working on your mobility, just working on engaging those muscles is really going to help. From here, let's learn downward facing dog. So to get to downward facing dog, go ahead and start by curling the toes back under because you need a platform just to roll onto. You're going to press up through that push-up, send the hips back, and straighten the elbows. So let me talk about some things here, and you guys can eyes up, look at me while I'm trying to explain some of these things. So the goal here, you do not have to have your heels on the ground. Wherever you get to with your calf and your hamstring flexibility is fine. You can even bend your knees here. It's no problem at all. You can shorten your dog. It'll get a little tougher if you have this really long downward dog. So find what's comfortable for you. Your feet are about hip width apart. You're sending your hips up to the air. And you're pressing your chest towards the thighs. So you're creating this extension through the back and moving the T-spine in the opposite way that we generally do when we're slouching forward. Your hands are pressing into the ground, so you've got that L between your thumb and first finger. That's where your weight is going. Elbows are straight and feel like you're, I don't know if twisting will make sense, but feel like you're rotating the elbows underneath. And once you do that, you'll feel like the shoulders are going down the back. So give that a try. See what works well for you. If downward facing dog is just too much for you right now, I'd probably recommend almost like a puppy pose and just being able to start working on the flexibility in the upper spine. But if you can get to downward facing dog, I really recommend doing that because this pose really stretches and hits a lot of the major muscle groups that we need to work on elongating. From here, you're going to take your right foot and bring it forward. So we're going to do a lunge again. So knee drops to the mat. You've got a 90-degree bend here. Chest up, look up. Same thing that we did on the other side. Make the modifications that you need to make this fit your practice and do what feels good for you. From here, left foot comes forward, back to forward fold. Again, whatever hand position felt good for you, remember chest and thighs are together. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Go ahead and stand all the way back up. Hands come to heart center. All the way overhead again. And raise the heart to the ceiling. Make sure you keep your core engaged. Shoulders are down. If it's hard for you to get your hands in this position, I forgot to mention this earlier. You can do cactus arms. So shoulders will still be down the back and you're going to just start working there and eventually getting your shoulder mobility. So instead of this, you can just go to this. And then, so if you're doing the full pose, it's up here. Hands back to heart center. And back to mountain pose. All right, blue team, that's your first sequence. So let's go through it as one flow, and that will be your first yoga class. Are you ready? Come on, let's go. All right, go ahead and step to the front of your mat. Mountain pose, feet are hip width apart. You're working on your alignment, starting from your ankles, knees, hips, straight spine. Shoulders are down the back. Palms are facing forward at your side. Bring your hands together. Bring them up overhead. Raise the chest to the ceiling. Keep the core engaged. Look up. Forward fold. Go bend at the waist. All the way forward. Place your hands either behind the shins, on the calves. Grab the opposite elbows, or just relax them forward. Relax the head. Make whatever adjustments you need to make to get the thighs to the chest. Palms to the ground, right leg back, drop the knee, lunge, chest up, look up. Hands come to the mat, left leg back, plank. Making your adjustments as needed to make sure your hands are spread apart. The weight is between the thumb and the first finger. Your shoulders are down the back, the core is engaged. Drop the knees, chest and chin. Keep the hips up in the air, shoulders are down the back. Elbows are close to the body. Drop the hips for cobra. Legs together, feet together. Hands underneath the chest, or hands underneath the shoulders. Peel the chest off the ground by engaging the back. Readjust the feet. Press all the way up to downward facing dog. Hips go back. Chest towards the thighs. Weight is between the L of the thumb and the first finger. Elbows are straight. Right leg comes between the hands for our lunge. Chest up, look up. Left leg comes forward to a forward fold. Chest on the thighs. Hands below the calves. Crossed at the elbows. Or just relax forward. Relax the head. Slowly stand all the way up. Hands come through heart center. Hands come overhead. Biceps are next to your ears. And you're raising the chest towards the ceiling. Hands come back to heart center. And we'll return to mountain pose. Close your eyes here if you would like. If that's uncomfortable, just gaze at a spot on the floor about 4 feet in. From here, we'll close our practice. Bring your hands to heart center. Take a nice deep breath. Relax everything. I really hope that you enjoyed class today. If you have any questions on anything that we covered, please put them in the comments below, and I will make sure that I address anything that comes up. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you here next time. Bye, Blue Team.